Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Best English Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and today I am absolutely thrilled to have you join me today. If you're new to our channel, I want to say that. You didn't find us by accident. You're here because you want to grow, to learn, to become a better version of yourself. And you're not alone on that journey. We share meaningful educational videos every single day because we believe that a little knowledge, shared with love, can truly change lives. So if you're ready to take that next step, to learn something new, to feel inspired, and to believe in your own potential, then stay with us. Subscribe and let's walk this path of growth together. Before we start, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever been in a room full of conversation, full of laughter, and felt like you were behind a wall of glass? You can see everything. You can hear the sounds, but you can't connect. You have so much you want to say, so many ideas and stories inside you, but the English words feel like heavy stones in your mouth. So, you stay quiet, and you smile, and you nod, and a little piece of you feels lost. I know that feeling. I remember standing on a busy street corner in a foreign city, the evening lights blurring around me, needing to ask for directions. And I remember the wave of panic that washed over me, the fear of my own voice, the fear of not being understood. In that moment, my silence was a cage. If any of this feels familiar to you, then I want you to know that you are in exactly the right place. That feeling, that frustration, it ends today. This is not another boring lesson about grammar rules. This is about something real. This is about dismantling that cage, brick by brick. This is about unlocking the two most human skills we have: the power to truly listen and the courage to speak. It's about finding your unique voice in English, a voice that is confident, clear, and completely yours. Today, we will do this by walking alongside two people on their own journey, two English learners named Anna and Carlos. We will see their struggles, we will see their fears, and we will celebrate their breakthroughs. Their story will be our map. Their experiences will be our guide. So if you are ready, truly ready to trade silence for conversation, to trade fear for confidence, then I invite you to settle in and listen closely. Make sure you are following us here at Best English Podcast, because today you are not just a passive listener. You are an active participant. Your journey to becoming a confident English speaker starts right now. Let's first talk about listening. It is the bedrock, the absolute foundation of language. Imagine trying to build a house without ever seeing one. You could read descriptions, but you wouldn't understand the structure, the feel, the reality of it. Listening is how we absorb the reality of English. It's the input, the constant stream of information that our brain needs to understand the rhythm, the melody, the structure, and the soul of the language. You cannot hope to produce a language that you have not first generously absorbed. But here is the crucial distinction. Listening is not a passive activity. Many people confuse listening with hearing. Hearing is what happens when sound waves enter your ears. It's automatic. You hear the traffic outside your window. You hear the hum of the refrigerator. Active listening, however, is a skill. It requires focus. It demands intention. It's the difference between blankly staring at a crowd of people and actively scanning the crowd to find your friend's face. One is passive exposure. The other is an active search. To truly understand this, let's meet Anna. Anna was an intelligent, capable professional who had just moved to Toronto, Canada, for a wonderful new job in marketing. She was thrilled. Her written English was strong, a solid B1 level. She had passed her language exams with good marks. She could read industry articles and compose professional emails with only a little difficulty. She felt prepared. She felt ready. But her first week at the office was like stepping into a cold shower. The reality of the spoken language was a shock. She sat in her first team meeting in a sleek modern conference room with a large window overlooking the city. Her new boss, a charismatic and extremely fast-talking man named David, stood at the front of the room, pointing at a slide full of charts and bullet points. He began, "All right, team. Great to have everyone here, especially our new addition, Anna. Welcome aboard. Just want to sync up on the third quarter deliverables for the Bluebird project. We've got some pushback from the vendor on the proposed timeline, which is creating a bottleneck. We need to leverage our existing assets to create a workaround before the stakeholder call on Friday. I need all hands on deck for this, so let's ideate some out-of-the-box solutions. No bad ideas at this stage." The words flew around the room like a flock of birds, too fast and too agile for Anna to catch. She recognized individual words on the screen: vendor, timeline, project. But hearing them spoken in a rapid-fire Canadian accent, strung together with idioms she had never heard before like pushback, bottleneck, and all hands on deck, she felt completely and utterly lost. It was like trying to drink from a fire hose. A familiar knot of panic tightened in her stomach. She picked up her pen and stared at her clean white notepad, pretending to be ready to take notes. Her mind was racing, not with ideas, but with fear. What did he just say? Q3? What is pushback? Everyone else is nodding. I should nod. Oh no, he just looked at me. I have to look like I understand. I am a fraud. They are going to find out I can't do this job. She smiled when the group chuckled at something David said. She furrowed her brow to look serious when the tone of the meeting shifted, but inside she was in a silent storm. How could she possibly contribute her marketing expertise if she couldn't even follow the basic conversation? That evening, she walked home through the unfamiliar city streets. The excitement she had felt just days ago now replaced with a heavy sense of dread. She unlocked her apartment door and sank onto the sofa, thinking, "My English is a disaster. I made a terrible mistake coming here. I will never succeed." This moment of despair is so common. We immediately blame ourselves, our intelligence, our bad ear for languages. But the problem is not our ability, it's our strategy. Anna was attempting the impossible. She was trying to understand and translate 100% of every word in real time. This is a recipe for mental exhaustion and failure. It is like trying to catch every single drop of rain in a thunderstorm with a tiny teacup. You will fail, you will get soaked, and you will feel miserable. The first, most powerful secret to better listening is to radically change your goal. For a B1 learner, your primary goal is not to understand every single word. That is a goal for very advanced learners, and even they miss things in a fast conversation. Your new, achievable goal is this: to understand the main idea. This is called listening for gist. It means asking yourself, what is the general topic here? What is the overall feeling or purpose of what is being said? Is this a story, an instruction, a complaint, a joke? Let's put ourselves back in that conference room with Anna for her next meeting. But this time, she has a new strategy. Before she walks in, she takes a quiet moment and gives herself a new, smaller mission. Okay, Anna, she tells herself. My only job for the first 5 minutes of this meeting is to understand one thing. What is the main topic? Is it about money? Is it about a new marketing campaign? Is it about a technical problem? This is a much smaller, more manageable goal. It's not a mountain, it's a single step. So, David starts the meeting, fast as always. Morning team, quick update on the Bluebird project. We've hit a snag with the vendor, they're pushing back on the timeline, so we need to brainstorm some workarounds before the client call on Friday. I need all hands on deck for this. This time, Anna's brain is not in panic mode. It is in detective mode. It is searching for one clue. She isn't trying to understand snag or pushing back or all hands on deck. She is listening for keywords. She hears Bluebird project, problem, timeline, and client call Friday. That's all she needs. She has achieved her mission. The panic begins to recede, replaced by a small, warm feeling of accomplishment. She can now pick up her pen and confidently write on her notepad. Main topic: problem with Bluebird project timeline, must solve by Friday. Roar. She is now in the conversation. She is engaged, not overwhelmed. This is a skill you can practice every single day. The next time you listen to anything in English, a podcast, a news report, a song, a YouTube video, give yourself this simple mission. Before you press play, ask yourself, what is my only goal? Make it simple. My goal is to discover the main topic or feeling. Listen for just 1 or 2 minutes. Then stop the audio. Ask yourself, what was that about? Maybe the answer is, it was about a new scientific discovery. Maybe it was a sad story about a lost dog. Or, you don't need the details yet. You just need the big picture, the gist. Let's try a small one together right now. I am going to tell you a very short story. Don't try to catch every word. Just relax and listen for the main feeling, the main idea. Are you ready? The young woman stood on the stage, the bright spotlight making it hard to see the audience. Her hands were trembling as she held the guitar. She took a shaky breath, closed her eyes for a second, and then began to play. The first few notes were quiet, hesitant, but then her voice joined in, and a powerful, clear melody filled the silent auditorium. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she was smiling. Now, pause. What was the main idea or feeling of that story? Was it about anger? Was it about a moment of nervous triumph? Was it about boredom? If you thought it was about someone overcoming their fear to achieve something beautiful, a nervous triumph, then you are absolutely correct. You see, you didn't need to focus on spotlight or hesitant or auditorium. You understood the core emotional journey. You listened for the gist. This is the first liberating step to becoming a confident listener. After Anna began to master listening for the main idea, her life at the office improved dramatically. The meetings were no longer terrifying, they were puzzles she could solve. But soon she faced a new, more specific challenge. Sometimes the main idea wasn't enough. She needed to understand a specific, crucial piece of information. One day, her friendly colleague, Sarah, came over to her desk. Sarah was kind and naturally spoke a little more slowly than David. She said, "Hi, Anna. Just a reminder that the team lunch is tomorrow. We're meeting at the Italian place on the corner, and we'll be leaving the office around 12:15. Wow. Anna's gist brain worked perfectly. Main topic, team lunch tomorrow at the Italian restaurant. Easy. But then her brain got stuck on a crucial detail, the time. Did Sarah say 12:15 or 12:50? The two numbers sounded so similar when said quickly, and Sarah had connected the words "and will" into a single smooth sound that sounded like "and wheel," which momentarily confused Anna. The old panic started to whisper in her ear, but she remembered her new approach: small, manageable goals and being an active participant. This is the second secret of active listening. It is not only okay to ask for clarification, it is a sign of a good listener. It shows you are engaged and that you care about getting it right. It does not make you look weak. It makes you look diligent. Instead of just nodding and spending the rest of the day worrying, Anna took a breath and smiled. "Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm really looking forward to it. Sorry, I just want to be sure. Could you repeat the time for me? My ears are still adjusting to fast English. Was it 12:15 or 12:50? Sarah smiled warmly, not annoyed at all. "Oh, of course. No problem. I probably said that too fast. It's 12:15. 1, 2, 1, 5. Anna smiled back, a genuine smile of relief and gratitude. "Great, got it. 12:15. See you then." In that two-sentence exchange, Anna learned a monumental lesson. Asking for repetition is a tool, not a confession of failure. She had successfully navigated the conversation and gotten the specific information she needed. This skill is called listening for specific information, and you use it constantly in your daily life without even thinking about it. When you listen to a weather report, you are not analyzing every sentence about atmospheric pressure. You are listening for the temperature and if it will rain. When you are at a train station, you ignore the long announcements about security and listen for one thing: your platform number. You can practice this skill with pinpoint precision. Take that same podcast or video you used before. This time, set a different mission. Before you listen, write down a specific question. For example, what is the name of the person being interviewed? Or, what city does this story take place in? Or, what year is mentioned? Now, listen with that one question in your mind. You are a detective searching for a single specific clue. Your brain can relax and let all the other information flow past it. You are hunting for one thing. Let's try it with our story about the old man in the park. This time, your mission is to find a specific detail. What did the old man throw on the ground for the pigeons? Listen again with this one question in your mind. The old man walked to the park bench every single day, rain or shine. He would sit, open a small, worn-out bag, and throw breadcrumbs on the ground. Within seconds, dozens of pigeons would flock around his feet, a swirling, cooing cloud of gray feathers. He never spoke to anyone, but he always had a gentle smile on his face as he watched them eat. So, what was the specific thing he threw on the ground? He threw breadcrumbs. Perfect. See how that works? Your brain was able to easily ignore the bench, the bag, the smile, the feathers, and zoom in like a laser on the one piece of information you were looking for. This is a skill you can strengthen with practice. By consciously switching between listening for the general idea and listening for specific details, you are giving your brain a full workout. It's far less tiring and infinitely more effective than trying to understand everything at once. There is another magical layer to listening that Anna was beginning to discover. A secret weapon that helps you understand even when the words themselves are unclear. This weapon is context. Context is everything around the words. It's the situation, the place you are in, the person you're talking to, their facial expressions, their body language. Context provides a rich tapestry of clues that can illuminate the meaning of a conversation. Let me give you a powerful example from Anna's life. One afternoon, needing a break, she went to a busy downtown coffee shop. The line was long, and the air was filled with the smell of roasted coffee beans and the sound of the espresso machine hissing. When it was her turn, the young barista behind the counter looked at her and said something incredibly fast. It sounded to Anna like one long, strange word. "What for you havin'?" Anna's mind went completely blank. Panic flickered. "What for you?" What was that? It wasn't in her English dictionary. It didn't sound like any word she had ever learned. But then, instead of freezing, she deployed her new secret weapon. She looked at the context. Where am I? I am in a coffee shop. Who am I talking to? A barista. What is his job? To take my order. What do baristas usually ask customers? They ask what they want to drink. Suddenly, a light went on in her head. What for you havin'? Must be the super fast, connected, real-world version of what are you having? The words themselves were a mystery, but the context made the meaning absolutely clear. This was a moment of pure triumph for Anna. She smiled, stood up straight, and replied with newfound confidence, "A latte, please." This experience leads us directly to one of the biggest and most frustrating hurdles for B1 learners: connected speech. In our language classes and on our learning apps, we often hear English spoken slowly and carefully, with a neat little space between each word. But that is not how humans talk. In reality, native speakers link words together. We change sounds. We drop sounds completely. We do this to be more efficient, to make the language flow like music. This is why listening to a real conversation can be so shockingly different from listening to a textbook recording. Let's dissect that barista's question like a scientist. What are you having? In slow, careful, textbook English, it is 4 separate words. But in fast, natural coffee shop English, it transforms. What and are blend together. The T sound at the end of what is often softened to a D sound when it comes before a vowel. So what are becomes whate'er. Next, the word you is very often reduced to a shorter, less stressed sound, ya. So now we have wadaria. Having is mostly the same, but in casual speech, the final G sound is often dropped. So having becomes havin'. Put it all together and what are you having becomes what are ya havin'. Spoken even faster by a busy barista, it can get squeezed into what for you havin'? This is not slang. This is not bad grammar. It is the natural evolution of a spoken language. And learning to recognize these common connections is like being given a secret decoder ring. It unlocks a whole new level of comprehension. Let's look at a few more essential examples. Going to almost always becomes gonna. I'm going to see a movie becomes I'm gonna see a movie. Want to becomes wanna. Do you want to get a coffee? Becomes do you want to get a coffee? Did you often mashes into didja. Did you finish the report becomes didja finish the report. I don't know is very commonly reduced to I don't know. Give me gets squeezed into gimme. Give me a minute becomes gimme a minute. When Anna learned about these patterns, it was a revelation. She started listening for them actively. She would watch her favorite American TV shows, but now with a new purpose. She would watch with the English subtitles on. She would hear a character say, "What ya doing tonight?" And she would see the subtitle read, "What are you doing tonight?" And she would pause the show and say it out loud to herself, "What ya doing? What ya doing?" She was connecting the sound she heard with the words she read. This is an incredibly powerful practice for you. Find a short clip of a movie or TV show you love, something with natural dialogue. First, watch the 1-minute clip without any subtitles. Just try to get the gist. Who is talking? Are they happy, angry, sad? Then, watch it a second time with the English subtitles on. Now, your job is to be a detective. Notice the differences between the words on the screen and the sounds you are hearing. When you see "I am going to have to go" and you hear "I'm gonna have to go," pause it. Repeat the sound you heard. Gonna have to go. You are training your ear to accept the reality of spoken English. This practice, sometimes called active transcription, is challenging at first, but it is one of the fastest and most effective ways to bridge the gap between classroom English and real-world English. As Anna's listening skills grew stronger every day, something else began to happen. She was not just a listener anymore. She was becoming a speaker. The two skills are not separate. They are two sides of the same coin. They are deeply intrinsically connected. Think of a great chef. A chef must first taste thousands of ingredients and dishes. They must understand the bitterness of an herb, the sweetness of a fruit, the savory depth of a sauce. They must have a rich palette of tastes stored in their memory before they can confidently walk into a kitchen and start creating their own delicious dishes. In the same way, you must listen to and absorb thousands of hours of English to build a rich palette for the language in your brain. You need to internalize its rhythm, its melody, its structure. All the listening you do is providing the raw ingredients for the speaking you want to do. This is the perfect moment to introduce Carlos. Carlos lived in Madrid, Spain, and he was enrolled in an advanced English class. On paper, his English was magnificent. His grammar was nearly perfect. He could read complex articles in The Guardian. He could write beautiful, well-structured essays about politics and art. But when the teacher, Maria, looked at him and asked him to share his opinion in class, something would break. He would freeze. His heart would start to pound in his chest. His palms would get sweaty. His mind, which was so full of intelligent, nuanced thoughts in Spanish, would suddenly feel like a blank, white desert. He would desperately search for the perfect English words, the flawless grammatical structure. He wanted to sound as intelligent in English as he felt in Spanish. This pressure he put on himself was immense, suffocating. And so, most of the time, he would say something very short and simple, like, "I agree," or he would just shake his head and say, "Nothing to add." He felt a deep, burning frustration. He knew the language was inside him. Why couldn't he let it out? Carlos's problem is one of the most common and painful problems for language learners. It is the cage of perfectionism. We want to speak English as eloquently and flawlessly as we speak our native language. And because we know, deep down, that we can't achieve that level of perfection yet, we choose the safe option: silence. But this silence, while it protects us from making mistakes, is also the enemy of all progress. Speaking is a physical skill, much like learning to swim. You can read 100 books about buoyancy and the mechanics of the front crawl, but until you get in the water, splash around, swallow a bit of water, and feel your arms and legs moving awkwardly, you will never, ever learn to swim. The first, most crucial step for Carlos and for you is a radical, revolutionary change in mindset. The goal of speaking is not perfection. The goal is communication. Let me say that again. The goal is not perfection. The goal is communication. Did the other person understand the message you wanted to convey? If the answer is yes, then you have succeeded. You have won. Even if you made 3 grammar mistakes, mispronounced a word, and had to pause to think, Carlos's teacher, Maria, saw his struggle and his potential. One day after class, she gave him some of the wisest advice he had ever received. She said, "Carlos, you are your own worst enemy. You know more English than anyone in this class. Your problem is not your knowledge, it's your fear. So, for the next week, I am giving you a new goal. Your goal is not to be correct. Your goal is to be understood. I want you to go into conversations and embrace your mistakes. I want you to see every mistake not as a failure but as a badge of honor. It is proof that you are trying, that you are in the water, swimming." This idea hit Carlos with the force of a lightning bolt. Embrace my mistakes? It was the opposite of everything he had ever tried to do. He decided to try her experiment. He would start very, very small. His goal for the next class was not to deliver a brilliant philosophical monologue. His goal was just to speak 1 or 2 complete sentences. The next day, Maria started the class by asking, "So, how was everyone's weekend?" In the past, Carlos would have just mumbled, "Good." But today, he had his mission. He had prepared a sentence in his head. He took a breath, felt his heartbeat, and said, "My weekend was good. I went to the cinema with my friends." He said it. His voice was a little shaky. He was sure his accent was thick. But he said it. Maria understood him perfectly. She smiled warmly and said, "Oh, wonderful! What did you see?" Now, Carlos was in a real conversation. He hadn't prepared for this follow-up question. The old Carlos would have panicked and shut down. The new Carlos took a breath, remembered his mission, and said the first thing that came to mind. We see the new action movie. Now, let's analyze that. Grammatically, it's incorrect. It should be, we saw the new action movie. But did Maria understand him? Yes, 100%. And this is where the magic happens. She didn't shout, "Wrong!" She gently and naturally modeled the correct form in her reply. "Oh, you saw the new action movie? I hear it's very exciting." She didn't shame him. She communicated with him and, in the process, gave him a tiny, gentle correction. Carlos heard it. Saw. The correct word entered his brain not as a red mark in a textbook, but as a natural part of a friendly conversation. His brain stored that little piece of information for next time. This is how real, lasting learning happens. Through brave interaction. Through making a mistake and being gently guided back to the path. The second great secret to speaking more fluently is to stop translating in your head. This is one of the biggest barriers that keeps B1 learners stuck. When you try to speak, does your brain do this? Have a thought in your native language. Mentally translate that thought into English words. Mentally try to arrange those words into a correct English sentence. Mentally check the grammar. Finally, try to say the sentence out loud. By the time you have gone through that slow 5-step process, the real-life conversation has moved on. It's exhausting and ineffective. So, how do you break this habit? You have to train your brain to think in English. This sounds very difficult, but you can start in a very simple, playful way. Start with single words. As you go about your day, simply name the objects you see around you, but only in English. You are sitting in your living room. You don't think sofa, you think sofa. You don't think libro, you think book. Lamp. Window. Rug. Television. You are creating a direct connection in your brain between the object and the English word, completely bypassing your native language. There is no translator in the middle. Once you're comfortable with single words, you can level up to simple sentences. Narrate your own actions in your head, like you are the star of your own movie. I am walking to the kitchen. I am opening the refrigerator. I see the milk. I am closing the refrigerator. Now I am picking up a glass. It feels incredibly silly at first, but what you are doing is building new neural pathways. You are forcing your brain to operate in English. You are making English the language of your immediate internal world. Carlos began doing this religiously. On his 10-minute walk to the bus stop each morning, he would turn his brain to English mode. I am walking on the street. I see a blue car. A dog is barking. The sun is shining. That is an old church. I like the architecture. A man is reading a newspaper. The sentences were incredibly simple, like something from a children's storybook. But for Carlos, it was a revolution. For those 10 minutes, he was living inside the English language. This daily practice began to have a noticeable effect in his class. When his teacher asked a question, his brain didn't automatically jump to Spanish to formulate an answer. It already had a little bit of English active and warmed up. It was like starting a car engine a few minutes before you need to drive. It was easier to find the words, easier to build a sentence. The process was becoming more direct. Now, let's connect this back to listening and introduce a technique that is the ultimate bridge between listening and speaking. It is called shadowing. Shadowing is, in my opinion, the single most powerful exercise for dramatically improving your pronunciation, your rhythm, your intonation, and your overall fluency. Here is how it works. You choose a short piece of audio, perhaps 30 seconds to 1 minute long. It could be from a podcast or an audiobook, but it's important that the speaker is clear and speaks at a natural pace. You put on headphones to block out distractions. You play the audio, and your job is to speak at the exact same time as the speaker. You are their shadow. Let me be very clear. You are not listening and then pausing to repeat. You are speaking with them simultaneously. The first time you try this, it will feel completely crazy. It will feel impossible. You will be stumbling over words, mumbling, and unable to keep up. This is a normal and essential part of the process. In the beginning, do not worry about understanding the meaning. Do not worry about saying the words perfectly. Your only goal is to try to match the music of the language, match the rhythm, match the melody. When the speaker's voice goes up, your voice should go up. When their voice goes down, your voice goes down. It's like humming along to a song when you don't know the lyrics. You just follow the tune. Carlos decided to try this. He found a podcast about world history, spoken by a man with a very clear, calm British accent. He committed to shadowing for just 5 minutes every day on his bus ride to his class. Day 1 was a disaster. It was just a jumble of noise, him mumbling along, feeling ridiculous. But he persisted. On day 3, he started to be able to catch and say a few of the shorter words in time with the speaker. By the end of the first week, he started to notice the speaker's intonation, how his voice consistently rose in pitch at the end of a question and fell at the end of a statement. Carlos started to copy this rise and fall. By the end of the second week, something amazing happened. He started to feel the rhythm of the sentences, the natural pauses, the stressed and unstressed syllables. He was absorbing the music. After 2 solid weeks of this 5-minute daily practice, an incredible moment occurred in his English class. The teacher, Maria, asked him to read a short paragraph aloud from their textbook. Normally, this would be a moment of dread for Carlos. But today, he stood up, took a breath, and began to read. The words flowed out of his mouth more smoothly than ever before. His pronunciation was clearer. The rhythm of his reading was more natural. He wasn't just reading separate words on a page. He was producing the music of the language, the same music he had been absorbing through his shadowing practice. He sounded more English. When he finished, the class was quiet for a second, and then one of his classmates said, "Wow, Carlos, you sound great." Carlos was stunned. He could feel the difference. It was working. Shadowing is like taking your mouth and your brain to the gym. You are physically training the muscles of your tongue, lips, and jaw to make sounds that may not exist in your native language. You are building muscle memory. Think about the difficult th sound, as in think or thee. This sound does not exist in Spanish, so for Carlos, it was always a challenge. He would tend to say tink or sink, or d instead of thee. But by shadowing the British podcast host, who said words like thee, that, they, and think hundreds of times, his mouth started to learn the correct position. He started to feel, without thinking, the tip of his tongue gently touching the back of his top teeth. Through massive repetition, it became less strange and more automatic. Let's imagine Carlos preparing for a small 2-minute presentation in his class about his favorite hobby, photography. The old Carlos would have written a perfect, detailed script in Spanish, translated it word for word into stilted, unnatural English, and then tried to memorize it. The result would have been a robotic and stressful performance. But the new Carlos tried a completely different method, combining all his new skills. First, he did his thinking in English practice. He just thought about the main ideas in simple English sentences. My hobby is photography. I like to take pictures of nature and people. I have a Canon camera. Photography makes me feel calm and creative. Next, he did his listening practice. He found a short YouTube video of a professional photographer talking passionately about his work. He listened to it several times, first for the gist. The man loves his job and sees beauty everywhere. Then for specific vocabulary. He picked up useful words like landscape, portrait, aperture, and shutter speed. Then he did his speaking practice. He shadowed that same photographer for 5 minutes a day for a week. He didn't just copy the words, he tried to copy the man's enthusiasm. He copied his excited intonation and the way he connected his words, like I just love it when, for I just love it when. Finally, when it was time to prepare, he didn't write a script. He just took a small index card and wrote down 4 keywords: hobby, nature, camera, feeling. This was his entire presentation plan. He trusted that he had practiced the ideas and the language enough that he could just talk. The day of the presentation arrived. He was still nervous, but it was a different kind of nervousness now. It was the buzz of excitement, not the cold grip of terror. He stood at the front of the class, looked at his first keyword, hobby, and began. Hello, everyone. Today, I want to, talk about my favorite hobby. It is photography. The sentence was simple, but it was confident. He even used a little filler word, which brings us to another secret of natural speaking. Native speakers use filler words constantly. Like, well, they are not mistakes. They are essential tools. They are the little bridges you build over the small gaps in your thoughts, giving your brain a crucial second to catch up and find the next word. Before, Carlos would have seen that as a public failure. Now he accepted it as a natural part of speaking, and he just kept going. He glanced at his next keyword, nature. I love to take pictures of nature, landscapes. I like to go to the mountains or the sea and take pictures of the light. He used to connect with his audience, just like he had heard in his podcasts. He wasn't just delivering a speech, he was having a conversation. He finished his 2 minutes talking about his camera and the feeling of peace that photography gave him. The class applauded. His teacher was beaming. Carlos, that was absolutely fantastic. Your fluency has improved so much. It was wonderful to hear the passion in your voice. Carlos felt a wave of pride that was so much deeper and more satisfying than the simple relief he used to feel after surviving a speaking task. He hadn't just survived. He had expressed himself. He had communicated. He had connected. Let's fast forward 1 year. Let's see how the small, consistent efforts of Anna and Carlos have completely transformed their lives. Anna's company is sending her to an international marketing conference in Berlin. She is there to represent her team, to learn about new trends, and to network. A year ago, the thought of this would have been her worst nightmare. Today, she walks into the enormous conference hall feeling nervous, yes, but also capable and prepared. She finds a seat for the opening keynote speech. The speaker is a famous American tech guru who talks 1,000,000 miles an hour. As he begins, the old Anna would have been instantly overwhelmed by the fire hose of jargon about synergistic platforms and disruptive innovation. The new Anna, however, is calm. She activates her listening for gist skill. Her mission for the first 10 minutes is simple. What is this person's one main message? She ignores the fancy words and listens for the core concepts. She hears data, privacy, future, responsibility. Okay, she's got it. The main message is about the responsibility tech companies have to protect user data in the future. She jots it down, relaxed. Then, the speaker mentions a specific new privacy law being introduced in Europe. This is directly relevant to her work in Canada. She immediately switches her brain to listening for specific information mode. She tunes out everything else and focuses like a laser, listening only for the name of the law and the date it will take effect. The speaker says, "This is all leading up to the new Digital Integrity Act, which is slated for rollout in Q4 2026. Anna snatches the information from the stream of words. She writes it down. Digital Integrity Act, Q4 2026. She has the key detail she needs for her report back at the office. She even notices his connected speech. Slated for sounds like slated for. Rollout in sounds like rollout in. But these no longer confuse her. She expects them. They are familiar friends now. After the speech, there is a coffee break. The large hall buzzes with the sound of hundreds of conversations. A year ago, Anna would have fled to a quiet corner to scroll nervously through her phone, avoiding all human contact. Today, she sees it as an opportunity. This is her practice field. She gets a coffee and deliberately walks towards a small group of people who are chatting. As she approaches, she hears a man with a distinct Spanish accent talking with great passion. He's saying, "And for me, the photography is a way to, capture a moment of truth. It's not just about the technical parts, the landscape, it's about the feeling inside that moment." Anna smiles. She recognizes the topic and the passion. She uses this as her entry point. She steps forward and says, "That's a beautiful way to put it. I'm not a photographer myself, but I really appreciate that idea of capturing a feeling." Odd. The man with the Spanish accent turns to her. his face lighting up with a friendly smile. It's Carlos. He's at the same conference, representing the design department of his company from Madrid. Ah, thank you. Yes, exactly, he says. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Carlos. Anna, she replies, shaking his hand. It's nice to meet you too. I work in project management in Toronto. And just like that, a conversation begins. Carlos asks Anna about her job. He uses his fillers naturally and without shame. So, project management, that must be, very stressful sometimes, no? He's not perfect. A native speaker might say, must get very stressful. But his meaning is 100% clear. That is a successful communication. Anna replies, using the clear, simple English she has grown comfortable with at her office. She doesn't search for fancy, complex vocabulary. She focuses on being understood. It can be, she says, but it's also very rewarding. We just launched a big project, so things have been pretty hectic lately. She naturally uses the contraction things of for things have, a small but clear sign of her growing fluency and comfort. They talk for 15 minutes. Not about the weather, but a real conversation. About the challenges of their jobs, about their impressions of Berlin, about Carlos's passion for photography, and about Anna's love for hiking in the parks near Toronto. The conversation flows. It has pauses. It has small hesitations. It has tiny imperfections. But it is a real, warm, human connection, happening entirely in their shared second language, English. When they part ways, exchanging business cards and promising to connect on LinkedIn, Anna and Carlos both walk away with a feeling that is far better than just surviving. They didn't just attend a conference, they participated in it. They didn't just listen, they contributed. They proved to themselves in the most real way possible that they are not just English learners anymore. They are English speakers, English communicators, capable of connecting with people from anywhere in the world. This story of Anna and Carlos, this journey from silent fear to confident connection, is the absolute heart of what I want you to take away with you today. Your own journey with listening and speaking is not a magical leap from beginner to expert. It is a long and beautiful path made of thousands of small, brave steps. It's deciding to listen for the main idea in a song instead of giving up in frustration. It's having the courage to smile and say, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" It's noticing how "I have to go" becomes "I have to go." It's narrating your trip to the grocery store in simple English in your head. It's shadowing a podcast for 5 minutes on the bus, even if you feel a little silly at first. It's daring to say, "We see the movie," and learning from the gentle, conversational correction, "Oh, you saw the movie." The unbreakable law of progress is consistency. 5 minutes of focused shadowing every day is infinitely more powerful than a 2-hour grammar class once a month. Naming the objects in your kitchen in English every single morning is far better than trying to cram a list of 50 new vocabulary words once a week. It is about building small, sustainable habits that weave the thread of English into the fabric of your real daily life. I want you to take a moment right now and think about your own situation. What is your single biggest challenge? Is it listening? Is it speaking? Be honest and be specific. Maybe your specific challenge is understanding people on the telephone, where you have no visual clues. Maybe it's the specific fear of speaking up in a work meeting with native speakers. Now, what is one small, tiny, manageable step you can take this week to face that specific challenge? We are not trying to solve the whole problem forever. We are just taking one step. If your challenge is phone calls, could you find a podcast that has a phone-in segment and just listen to it for 10 minutes, just to get your ear accustomed to that lower quality disembodied audio. That's your one step. If your challenge is meetings, could you prepare one single sentence to say in your next meeting? Just one, like Carlos did. Maybe it's a question. That's an interesting point. Could you explain what you mean by synergy? Or maybe it's a simple statement of agreement. I agree with Sarah's point about the deadline. That's it. That's your one brave step. The road to fluency is paved with thousands of these small moments of courage. It is a journey that requires patience and, above all, self-compassion. There will be days when you feel stuck. There will be conversations where you feel lost again. That is okay. That is a normal part of the process. On those days, I want you to remember Anna in that silent, panicked state in her first meeting. I want you to remember Carlos, frozen in his chair, unable to make a sound. And then, I want you to remember them a year later, at the conference, chatting easily over coffee, their shared language a bridge between them, not a wall. Their progress was not magic. It was the simple, beautiful result of consistent, focused, and gentle practice. Before we finish for today, I want to give you one final powerful tool. It is not a technique, but a state of mind. It is a tool that enhances both listening and speaking. It is the power of curiosity. When you approach language learning with a spirit of curiosity, everything changes. Fear cannot survive where curiosity lives. When you are a curious learner and you don't understand a word, you don't feel stupid. You feel curious. Ooh, that's a new word. I wonder what it means and how I can use it. You look it up later. The new word is a discovery, not a sign of your failure. When you hear a strange pronunciation or a new idiom, you don't feel confused and overwhelmed. You feel curious. That's an interesting way to say that. I wonder if that's common in Australian English, or just something that person says. You become a language detective, always on the lookout for new clues about how this fascinating language works. When you speak, you are not terrified of making mistakes. You are curious to see what will happen when you try to express your idea. I'm not sure if this is the perfect way to say this, but I'm curious to see if they will understand my meaning. Communication becomes a fun experiment, not a stressful test. This fundamental shift from a mindset of fear to a mindset of curiosity is perhaps the most important shift of all. It transforms learning from a chore into a game. It turns practice from a burden into a pleasure. It turns moments of frustration into moments of fascination. So, as you continue on your English journey from this day forward, I invite you to be like Anna. Be an active, curious listener. Start with the gist. Hunt for the details. Use the context as your superpower. And never, ever be afraid to ask for help. And I invite you to be like Carlos. Be a brave, curious speaker. Start small. Think in English. Shadow the voices you admire. Embrace the beauty of imperfection. And always, always focus on connection over perfection. And above all, be endlessly curious. Be kind and patient with yourself. Celebrate every small victory. The new idiom you understood. The sentence you managed to say in a shop. The 5-minute conversation you had. Each one is a diamond. Each one is a step forward on your own unique path. Thank you for joining me, Sophia, here at Best English Podcast. I hope that walking with Anna and Carlos has filled you with inspiration and given you practical, real-world tools that you can start using today. Remember that every time you choose to listen actively, every time you choose to speak bravely, you are building a stronger, more confident, and more connected you. keep practicing, stay curious, and I very much look forward to you joining me again for our next step on this wonderful journey together.